Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2021 Genesis Invitational. Yes, it's Tigers tournament. The guys are going to jump in the car and head about 5 hours down the coast to Pacific Palisades, right by LA. So the plans for today is, of course, I'm going to be giving you a whole breakdown on the Genesis, but I think we need to spend a few moments recapping the AT&T, and to start off, I think we need to talk, as everybody is, about Jordan, because this is going to be the question for the Genesis is, do we want to look at Jordan as a core play? I'm not going to probably have the answer to that today, but we are going to start the process of looking at it, and then, of course, we'll talk about the other guys. But let's just spend a few moments, and I thought this stuff would be interesting. So this was some information that was on PGA Tour Live. It just kind of comparing Jordan's last 4 rounds versus previous 51 rounds. And as you will see up here, in his last 4 rounds, he, of course, was inside the top 5. His average position was somewhere around second to third. Where if you look at in past 50th, 51, never was in the top 5. His average position was 51st. His birdie average has went up by 2.2. As I've mentioned before, he typically does make birdies. It's just eliminating the doubles and the bogeys. So on average, he was a 4 there. His scoring average, of course, is also down by almost 5 strokes. Okay, that's great. That's a very small snapshot at looking at just comparing. This is his stroke gain analysis for this current season. Now, this does not include AT&T, but it does include waste management. And again, you can see over those, the past, 6-7 rounds that he's played, still was struggling off the tee. Approach was a good elite around the green. So if you look at the PGA Tour average, it's around 100. If you take 100, if you're above 100, you're above average. If you're below 100, in that category, you're a little below average. And putting, as usually Spieth has been always a good putter, but it has definitely picked up in these last 2 tournaments. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, just still looking at his stroke gain analysis for the current season. And then if you go and listen to his recent interview, and I'll put the link in the comments below, but if you go listen to his recent 5-minute kind of after interview, there was the key things that I saw that he mentioned was A, talking about the Genesis, that the Riviera is one of his favorite golf courses to play, and we'll look at some history here next. But also what is interesting that is he's saying it is not mental. It is still mechanical. He is still in times under pressure situations testing that swing. And I just thought that was kind of interesting where, some people said, oh, you still get over the mental part. Some people are saying it's mechanical. Some people say it's both. Some people say, what I see, if you care about my opinion, is when it comes down to the Sundays right now, I think he's thinking too much. I think it's analysis to paralysis. I mean, you can hear him and Michael just kind of getting their conversations. And instead of getting up and saying, here's the yardage, here's the wind, and hitting the ball, he's sitting there and they're looking at every possible thing that could go wrong, I feel like, or taking in so many things that typically he doesn't do. I think he is a bit of a field player. And so he sits there and does all the analytics. I think it's been hurting him. But anyways, check that out. I think it's interesting. So from his viewpoint, he's going to another comfort course. And so that's something else that we have to take in consideration. And then if I quickly just pull up Jordan's history at the Riviera, nothing really stellar pops out except his 2015, had green across the board. But that was during his heyday. But 2018 was his most recent finish that, actually showed some light. And I brought it up here because I wanted to see what was interesting to me is what Jordan was doing for the last couple of years is Thursday, Friday, playing pretty decent golf. Because I don't think mentally he was so worried about where he was at in the tournament. I think he was working on his swing and things like that. But what was interesting in 2018 is that this was kind of flipped from what you saw quite a bit in his tournaments that typically scored well on Thursday, Friday, but actually it was the opposite here, where he actually scored better and scored his best on Sunday. So that's very interesting to me because his struggles before was if he made the cut, when the weekend came, it was just a disaster. And that, of course, has changed. We saw it in the waste management and recently here. So I just wanted to bring that out. Just some further, insights into Jordan. I don't have a call yet where I'm going to be putting him or if I'm going to be having him in my core group. If I had to guess right now, I'm going to take a strong look. Probably yes, but I want to do some more analysis to figure that out. So, anyways, just some insights on the Jordan topic. Let's jump into the actual tournament. And I always do this, as you know, I like to break down from a stats perspective what the guys do well, what didn't they do well, talk about some things we might want to look for the Genesis, and then we'll move on, of course, and talk about the Genesis because that is why you're here. All right, so we, of course, know Daniel Berger won the tournament. Again, what was interesting is Daniel did not lead in one of the stroke gain categories. He was second in total shot stroke gain under Cantlay, but won the tournament. And he did everything really well. And, of course, he made, as you see here, 4 eagles. And that's one thing that I learned is that I will, in the future, that will be something that's put into my custom stat model. It won't be weighted heavily, but the guys do have to take advantage of the par fives and make hay there, and that's what he did. And ultimately, that's why he won, is the eagles that he made. It wasn't on all par fives. I believe he eagled a par 4, drove it, and made the putt. But just a happenstance, that was one thing that I took away, and something that you might want to note in the future. Of course, Patrick Cantlay came out, and I think he shot 8 under for 9 holes on Pebble Beach. Perfect weather that day. So he led the first round. I believe Jordan led round 2 and round 3. And then, of course, Berger won the thing. Just so you know, from a stroke gain category, who led and which. Funny enough, you had Jonathan Vegas leading off the tee, which Jonathan's a great driver, used to hit the ball pretty long, but I haven't seen him lead a stroke gain category, and I couldn't tell you how long. So just something to note. We have to keep an eye on Jonathan Vegas. We got the Players coming up where he had a pretty good outing. I don't know if it was 2 years ago. On approach, you had Chez Reavie. Again, a bit of a shock to me because Chez has been disastrous. Actually, somebody, one of the subscribers asked me about Chez Reavie, and asked me, I think, about, how was his splits. But he was, I think, just barely positive for POA. Chez would have fit this course for me previously, but his form for I don't know how long has just been brutal. And so he's not even been on my radar. But is a little more on my radar now, seeing that his iron game, at least for 3 rounds, right? This is 3 rounds of data that I have here from a stroke gain side, was gaining 7 strokes on the field. That's impressive. You had Troy Merritt. Again, to me, a little bit impressive that he led the field with 5 strokes gained. From a putting standpoint, you had Tringali, who has been putting well. He's had some really good Sundays. I actually missed one of the GPPs. It was a $5 single entry. I think there was like 3,000 or 4,000 people in it. I, of course, had one entry and would have won it, except I didn't have Hoffman. I forgot who I had instead. But Tringali was one of the main guys, and I think it ended up in 20th or something like that. But neither here or there. It was just shocking. And talking about Hoffman, the guy shot 3 under the first day, but literally I think it was 6 over on his first 6-7 holes for day 2, and didn't look like he was going to make the cut. And I played Hoffman, and he's actually been in my recommendations, especially for the waste management. And the guy just was terrible. But, there you go. There's golf. But you end up shooting 10 under on the weekend and gained positive across the board. So, again, something to note. Keep an eye on Charlie Hoffman. And then you'll see in this kind of, I don't know what, beige color, these are all the picks. I always like to give you guys transparency on how I'm doing and how we're doing. It was another good week. Not as good as a waste management from a betting perspective, but pretty solid from a DraftKings perspective. Did well on the showdowns on Friday and Saturday. Didn't, not on Sunday. But if you look at who I picked, and if you guys kind of stuck with it, you should have done well. The only thing was, some of my lower picks on the sleeper side is what hurt me. It could ultimately hurt you. I had a lot of 4 of 6s or 5 of 6s going in, and had all the top guys, just couldn't fill out that bottom. So on that side, that was a little disappointing. But, I picked Daniel Berger, of course, for a top 10. We had McNeely, I believe, was a top 30. Cantlay was a top 10. And the guys that should have done well at this course did do well. I'd say that the one shocking one that, was Nate Lashley and McNeely. I had McNeely, like I said, picked to be a top 30. I had Nate Lashley as a sleeper. And the reason why Nate was because, I got to watch. I actually attended the tournament that Nate won as an alternative at Detroit Country Club back at the Rocket Mortgage. Got to watch him real up close, and when that guy is on with his irons, it's unreal. It's like literally throwing darts. Everything he was hitting was 2 to 3 feet of the pin. What Nate has to do well is, of course, the putting and off the tee. And typically off the tee is okay. It's the putter, as you saw, with a 4 putt from like 3 feet, which I just felt terrible for the guy. I had an outright on him and McNeely to win with some nice odds, but that did not come to fruition. But I was rooting for him. I had Paul Casey, of course. I had Spieth, which I thought that was, again, I don't like making picks, to be honest, that are just, I feel a little bit no-brainers. I like to really push the edge and find the guys that are going to give us the differentiation. I did the same with Phil Mickelson, which just came to bite me in the butt. Phil is ultimately banned in my entirety of picks from here going forth. I think it's time, not to be mean, but I think it is time for Phil to really go focus on the Champions Tour. His game is so far gone. I don't even know what to do. I plugged him in because no matter what his form was going into Pebble Beach, he always strived, always did well, and just thought, he was going to get them same feelings back, and that definitely did not happen. I would say that's probably one of the more disappointing picks that I made, but I made it knowing that it was against everything I know. Just I was going purely on his course history, not anything with his form on any area, and we'll never do that again. Paul Casey did well, had Homa, had Tringali, I believe, is a top 20. Streelman, top 20. Reeve and Merritt, I don't know. I was looking at Merritt definitely from a sleeper perspective. I don't know if he made the win team or not, but I know he, had some areas that I did like. Of course, Will Gordon, Jim Furyk. Norlander was probably the only pick that I faded. So if you see it in that kind of reddish color, that maybe was, ultimately he did nothing on Saturday or Sunday, but it was looking like it could burn me in the beginning. But again, it was 8,700. Michael Thompson was a sleeper pick. Matt Jones, a lot of people were on him. Brian Harmon was in mine. Jonathan Vegas was not my pick. Will Z, I think that was one of my better fades for that cost, almost 10K. I feel bad for guys that played Will Z. He, barely made the cut and then, really didn't do anything. But Sunday had a 3 under. Denny McCarthy missed the cut. Adam Long also missed the cut. That was kind of disappointing. Harry Higgs was one of my win players, so that was like my alternate sleepers I talked to you guys about. So was Kevin Chappell. Rory and Peter Molinari were the two that kind of sunk my ship in the big game. Bramblett was kind of one of those crazy picks. He got me to the weekend, but did not perform. Ricky was a fade, and that's not that hard right now. I mean, I'm a fan of Ricky, but his game is just not there. Rafa Cabrera, I thought we had something there. I was hoping. But as you see, had a tough day on Friday, so he missed a cut. Chase Seifert missed a cut. James Hahn was a fade, and for me it was pretty simple. I kind of felt like what took place at Waste Management was going to carry over, but he has won the Riviera at Riviera. I think it was 2015. I don't know if it was actually the Genesis at that point. I feel like I don't know if it was the Nissan or whatever the name of the tournament was. But it is note to self. Wes Roach had the most bogeys, and Snedeker, another guy, I don't usually recommend him. I don't typically play him. But again, course fit, was hoping like him and Phil, they could find something. And of course, here you got Phil Boy, who I think had like a quad, a 9 on number 18. So I think that's about it that I wanted to cover. Okay, course breakdown. As I already mentioned, of course, we're at the Riviera Country Club. Used to host the LA Open, quite a few different tournaments, even the Nissan Open, which we'll talk about with DJ, who technically won, but I think it was only 2 rounds, so it didn't count. But they're heading down coast, Pacific Palisades, California. This is a par 71 yardage. You'll see somewhere between 7,300 yards to 703.22. So, everything I saw. So just a little over 7,300 yards. Very similar to kind of Pebble Beach. And I believe even the Waste Management is 3 par 5s, 4 par 3s, 11 par 4s. So got to take advantage on those par 5s when they can. Something unique is on number 6. They have that bunker in the middle of the green, so you got to kind of watch, of course, on your pro shot, or you'll be chipping it or putting it around it. I also believe, I think it's at the player. There's another course that has that, and it's on like the 16th, and I can't for some reason think of the course right now. Doesn't matter. This tournament, of course, taking place between Thursday and Sunday, starting on February 18th. Got duplicated yardage on there. Apologize for that. Fairways and rough is Kakua. The greens are Poana, and they're about average size. Maybe you could say a little less than average size, about 5,000 square feet. But these are the toughest greens you'll hear from the players and from people. Toughest greens to put on, even over Pebble Beach. So note to self. Player field is about 141, which is about typical. Of course, you got to get the invitation from Tiger, or you got to meet certain qualifications to get those invitations. It will be cut down to 65 in ties. Average cut line, somewhere between +1 to +3. So the scoring is not going to be typically as low as what we've been seeing. But there is a 17 under that was shot by DJ, I believe, like 4 years ago to win the tournament. Average winning score, so it equals out to around 14 under. And for coverage, you will check out the Golf Channel Thursday, Friday, and then I know CBS is carrying it on the weekend. And of course, as I always mention, PGA Tour Live app, I highly recommend it. You get to watch. I believe they're having 4 days of coverage for some odd reason. It might just be Thursday, Friday this week. I don't know why, but again, you get to watch certain feature groups from the time they tee off to the time they're done. And it's also great when you don't want to watch commercials on the Golf Channel. You can flip over to PGA Tour Live. So just note to self on that. All right, I think that's enough on the course. Some past champions and ranking of skills needed to succeed. So if you look last year, of course, Adam Scott won. You had JB Holmes, Bubba Watson, who's actually won this thing 3 times. And Adam Scott, as I mentioned, won it in 2005 when it was the Nissan Open, but it was only 2 days. I believe it was 36 holes. I think rain and weather, they finally had to cancel it. So it actually did not become an official tour event. But in theory, he won it in 2005. And then, of course, you got DJ, who won it back in 2016, I believe that is. So 2019, 18, maybe it's 2017. I apologize. Real quick for me, if I look at these guys, what do they do all very well? They hit their long irons very well. JB Holmes, which you might not know a lot about, before the shoulder injuries, was an excellent player when it came to ball striking. Hit the ball pretty long, pretty good off the tee. Great iron player. It was always the putting that could just kill his game. A lot like, I think his doppelganger is Duffner. I don't know why, but Jason Duffner and those two just mentally, for me, kind of go together. And so how I'm going to be looking at this and doing the analysis to find out the guys that we want to put in our core plays will be rank of skills going almost pretty much from green back to the tee. Not too far off from what we were looking at Pebble Beach, because ultimately, if you go look at these guys also, they all are positive on POA when you look at their green splits. And the number one thing they're going to need to do very well here is putt, and definitely because it's fast POA greens. So in tougher greens than what we just saw at Pebble Beach, and you saw those guys missing 3-4 footers, just those quick little snaps at the hole location. So that's the first thing I'll be looking at. The next thing is avoiding 3 putts is a key indicator here if you're going to do well. We mentioned the long approach. So the majority of the shots coming in are going to be coming in from 150 to 175. So proximity from that range. And then the next bulk, which are pretty equal, is somewhere between 175 to 200 plus. Then around the green, I believe there is no water at this course, if I remember right. But there is a bit of sand. And so, sand saves are going to be key around the green. And then actually green and reg, hitting these greens is a key indicator. And then if you're missing them or missing off the fairways, you're going to have scrambling. Next would be fairways and regulation. And then accuracy off the tee over distance here is what's showing up. Again, it's 7,300 yards, but that's not super long. So, if the guys need to hit the long irons, as you saw at Pebble Beach, or some hybrids or 3-woods, they got to get in the fairway first to get that approach, coming in on the angle they want. So that'll be the areas that we need to look at. And then just as I've been doing lately, just to confirm that, really only need to look at 3 guys, and it's the 3 guys we just talked about. So Bubba, as you see here, who won it, 3 out of 4 years from 2014 to 18. Then you see where he excelled was on approach. gaining, almost 7 strokes there, 4.5, 4. And then, of course, putting. Now, you can get this done different ways. It's going to either, what I've seen is going to either fall under they got it done under putting or they got it done under approach. But again, you can see gain strong there. And you can see when he missed the cut, this was the key indicator. Yeah, a little bit here, but missing, losing 4 strokes to the field is not going to get it done. And then again, if we go look at Adam Scott, I mentioned the 2005, kind of win here. But his first and second place I highlighted, again, really getting it done on approach. He did it here with putting, and here, didn't gain a ton, but gained almost, a stroke and a half on the field. But you can see he gained more with the approach when it came to the field. But again, off the tee, 1.1, 1.8, that's not the area that you're going to get it done on this course. And then, of course, we look at DJ. He had a first in 2 seconds here in the past. So, again, I just pulled up, again, approach, gained almost 7, which then he lost a tiny bit, putting, but got away with it because of how elite he was here. But typically, I think this is about what we're looking for is, gaining around 4 strokes on approach and gaining about 3.5, 4 strokes. Here he just flipped it, gained a ton on putting, but a little less on approach. So, again, everything that we're looking at is putting and approach. Some past course conditions, just so you can see, looking at the past 2 years, scoring relative to par, difficult to average, but firmness of the greens, it's all dependent. You can see here it's soft. It must, they might have got a little rain. This time of the year, just as you heard probably at Pebble Beach, it's hard for these things to firm up. They're not getting a lot of sun. This is the kind of their wetter season. So, I expect the greens probably to fall more on the medium. But hitting fairways is going to be difficult here. So that's the accuracy play. Rough is short, but, fast greens. And, of course, the wind can do whatever. That's something we'll check. I'll check into come Wednesday. And then we break down the scorecard, starting out with a par 5. If you're going off the first hole, it's a scoring opportunity. Some people, I've heard 2 different opinions. Some players say, they love that because they get to work all the clubs. Some say, it's not the best if you start. So I'm talking about from a showdown perspective. Maybe you want to go with guys off 10. They get the swing getting going. You'll get warmed up. So they got a scoring opportunity on number 2. They got a couple more scoring opportunities to front. If I had to look at it, just maybe a hair more difficult. But you'd hate, they hate to hit the bad tee shot on number 1 and kind of wreck your birdie opportunity because you're not going to have a ton of them here. Really nothing else stands out from, when I look at the scorecard. If you look at the par 3s, a little longer, similar to Pebble Beach, you got two over 200s. You got a 193, and the shortest is a 165. Of course, that probably got the famous, number 7, that's like 100 yards. And then the comp courses that I'll be leveraging, the one that, is the best fit is where they play the WGC Mexico, which I think we've used this as a comp course before, but the Club de Golf Chapultepec. I probably just butchered that bad, but something like that. Par 71, POA, good yardage. When I looked at the comparisons of what you need to do to succeed and the guys that won the WGC Mexico, it was identical if you laid them over the top of what you need here. So it's a really good comp course fit. The second one that's really good, but they just haven't played a ton, is Ridgewood Country Club. They did play the Northern Trust there back in 2018. So I'll be looking at that. And, of course, this year coming up, they played TPC Boston last year. It is a rotation. They will be playing Ridgewood the upcoming. So also give us some insights, into who we want maybe to pick for that when that time comes for the FedEx playoffs. But it's POA, par 71, same distance. And then one that I think is similar is in toughness. So, of course, where the Valspar is played at Innsbruck Copperhead, it's a par 71, but it is a Bermuda green. So it is a different green. But everything else from a correlation of hitting the fairways is hard, fast greens, scoring relative to par is difficult. Everything else fits really well. So that'd be my third comp course that I leverage, of course, outside of looking at the history at the Riviera. And then if I just quickly throw on some of them, I built I guess the simplest way to put it is I built a quick model and talked about the areas that we are, and I've weighted heavily, of course, the putting, approach, the proximities we talked about, around the green, scrambling, 3-putt avoidance, par 5, greens and reg, and fairways reg, and then, and all I did, so this is not looking at any filters regarding the course or POA or any of that. This is just recent 24 rounds. How do these guys ranked? This is who popped up. So it was DJ first. I'm sorry, Justin Thomas first, DJ second, Schauffele. Kind of all the guys. I think Tringali is interesting here. I've been hyping Ortiz. I actually just put a bet on him to win the Masters. I like him, and also Cantlay. The odds for both those guys are pretty decent still, but I like that odds right here, 70-1 for Ortiz this week. I'm definitely gonna be placing that bet. Siwoo Kim is, pretty decent form. Of course, won the Farmers. Great, ball striker. Lanto's interesting. So some guys pop up here that maybe, just first glance. Now, again, this isn't looking at all the course history and, how they do on all that. But Matthew Wolff, I think, would be a great play when he was striking the ball the way he did. But as I've kind of said, and he did show life. So I think it was on Sunday at the Waste Management, showed some life. So I'm going to look into Wolff. Again, this is kind of the buy low when you can, because the guy's game is going to be back to where, it was. It's just a matter of time. And that's it. That's a quick, we got the recap. We got the course breakdown. We got to look at the players. We got some ideas of what we're going to be doing going forward. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, click the like button. Share it with anybody you think would get value. Subscribe if you have not. This is just free content. I do this because I'm doing it anyways for myself and want to put it in a form that you guys can consume and try to help some other people. So would greatly appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. And if you do have any questions during the tournament or before the tournament, hit me up at DFS Golf Guru on the Twitter sphere, or feel free to comment in YouTube. I check them both. And I appreciate it. All the best of luck to us this week, and I will have out my top core plays tomorrow show, and then, of course, followed up with sleepers, ownership projection, fades, and weather on Wednesday. Okay. All the best, guys. Take care.